Hello everyone. Have you ever wondered what actually separates an ordinary emergency from a full blown disaster and why the same earthquake can be harmless in a desert but catastrophic in a crowded city? Today we are going to understand disaster definition, its types and its health effects using a source grounded framework built for public health and emergency preparedness. Let us begin with the anatomy of a disaster. A disaster occurs when a hazardous event combines with conditions of vulnerability and together they exceed the local coping capacity of a community. According to the United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reduction in 2009, a disaster is a serious disruption of the functioning of a community involving widespread human, material, economic, or environmental losses. India's Disaster Management Act of 2005 defines it as a catastrophe, mishap, calamity, or grave occurrence of such a nature or magnitude as to be beyond the coping capacity of the community. And the general consensus from Encyclopedia Britannica describes it as any natural or human generated calamitous event that produces great loss of human life or destruction. To understand this more precisely, we need a comparative matrix. In terms of the scale of disruption, an emergency is a situation where the system remains functioning, involving biological or technological hazards that require a response but do not collapse society. A disaster, on the other hand, is when the system is severely disrupted, local capacity is overwhelmed, and external, national, or international assistance becomes necessary. In terms of the timeline of harm, the immediate phase refers to the damage measured in physical units like square meters of housing or kilometers of roads occurring during and immediately after the event. The long term phase refers to the impact, the total effect, including economic losses, disease, and negative effects on human physical, mental, and social well being. And underlying all of this is the hazard itself, the trigger, a dangerous phenomenon, substance, or human activity that may cause loss of life or property damage. It is important to remember that hazards exist independently of disasters. Disasters can also be classified along multiple dimensions. On one axis, we look at scale, ranging from small scale events needing only local assistance to large scale events requiring national or international aid. On another axis, we look at onset, ranging from sudden onset events that emerge quickly and unexpectedly, like earthquakes and chemical explosions, to slow onset events that emerge gradually over time, like drought, epidemic disease, and sea level rise. And on a third axis, we look at frequency, ranging from infrequent events to frequent chronic ones, such as seasonal localized flooding. This brings us to the concept of cumulative threat. Frequent disasters depend on the probability of occurrence and their return period. Their impact is cumulative, slowly eroding a community's baseline resilience and turning it into a chronic societal crisis. Now, let us look at natural hazard taxonomy, starting with geophysical and hydrological hazards. Geophysical hazards, which originate from the solid earth, include earthquakes and mass movement, which account for the highest immediate trauma injuries, volcanoes, where mortality is driven by mudslides known as lahars and glowing clouds, and tsunamis, which involve the displacement of massive amounts of water. Hydrological hazards involving water movement include floods and flash floods, and landslides and avalanches. In the Indian context, more than 65% of the country is prone to earthquakes of MSK intensity 7 or higher, with Zone 5 being the most active region. Around 12.6% of India's landmass is prone to landslides, heavily concentrated in the northwestern Himalayas. And of India's 7,516 kilometer coastline, around 5,700 kilometers are prone to tsunamis. Moving on to meteorological, climatological, and biological hazard taxonomy. Meteorological and climatological hazards include cyclones and storm surges, with 5 to 6 emerging annually in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. Heat waves, defined as temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius in the plains and above 30 degrees Celsius in the hills, and droughts, which affect 68% of Indian agricultural land and lead to salinization and malnutrition. Biological hazards include epidemics and pandemics, which may be viral, bacterial, or parasitic, such as outbreaks of cholera, acute encephalitis, H1N1, and COVID 19. A special mechanism worth understanding here is the glacial lake outburst flood, or GLOF. This begins with a melting glacier accelerated by climate induced warming. This creates a stressed moraine dam, and eventually, this leads to a sudden downstream release of water. This mechanism was accelerated by climate induced glacial melt, as seen in the Lonak Lake disaster in Sikkim in October 2023. Disasters are not always purely natural, they can also be amplified by human activity. One pathway involves an accident, negligence, or mechanical failure during storage or transport, which creates chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear risks, collectively known as CBRN risks. A tragic example of this is the Bhopal gas tragedy of 1984, where the accidental release of toxic methyl isocyanate gas resulted in tens of thousands of deaths. Another pathway involves rapid urbanization, poor planning, and inadequate drainage, which replaces porous ground with concrete, increasing runoff speed to just minutes and causing flash floods. Examples of this include Chennai in 2015 and Srinagar in 2014, where natural rainfall was converted into man made disasters by sprawling habitations blocking water courses. Warfare and terrorism represent a unique category altogether, where severe structural and human damage is the intended goal, not an accidental byproduct. Let us now look at the drivers of vulnerability, starting with socio demographic and environmental factors. Population pressure and rapid urbanization force communities into high risk geographic zones. Environmental degradation, particularly deforestation, removes root systems, leading to surface erosion, so that heavy rainfall triggers shallow, rapid landslides and directly increases flooding in forest areas. Unsafe housing and infrastructure that fail to meet seismic or flood resistant standards turn homes into the primary cause of crush injuries during earthquakes. And a lack of basic services such as poor solid waste management blocks stormwater and sewage networks, directly resulting in waterlogging and hygiene collapse. Together, these create what is called the multiplier effect, where heavy rainfall meeting deforested slopes and dense non engineered housing turns a natural event into a fatal landslide. Vulnerability is also driven by geography, climate, and healthcare gaps. At the macro level, climate change means warmer air holds more water, resulting in heavier rainfall. Warmer sea surfaces speed up tropical cyclone intensification, and warmer temperatures enhance evaporation, worsening droughts. Geographical susceptibility adds to this, with extreme dependence on uniform monsoon rain patterns and shifting geotectonic plates beneath alluvial plains. At the micro level, healthcare gaps arise when hospitals are located in floodplains or built without seismic retrofitting, and system fragility arises from reliance on single source power grids for critical care units. When the physical structure is compromised, medicines are lost, equipment is destroyed, and staff evacuate, turning a natural hazard into a localized public health collapse. The public health impact of a disaster unfolds across a clear morbidity spectrum over time. In phase 1, immediate trauma dominates, including acute physical injuries like crush injuries, fractures, and burns, with earthquakes yielding the highest immediate trauma load. In phase 2, system interruption occurs, bringing chronic disease emergencies. These are silent killers, as power outages and infrastructure damage cut off care for diabetes, kidney disease requiring dialysis, and lung disease patients. In phase 3, environmental collapse sets in, triggering infectious disease. Destroyed water pipes and sewer systems trigger waterborne diseases like cholera, while overcrowding in relief camps spreads respiratory infections. And in phase 4, long term degradation takes hold, bringing malnutrition as damaged farms and disrupted logistics trigger food shortages and price spikes, along with mental health trauma, including high rates of PTSD, depression, anxiety, and eventual spikes in substance and alcohol abuse. The impact of a disaster extends far beyond health alone, creating what can be described as a ripple effect. At the center lies the human cost, meaning morbidity, mortality, and the collapse of localized well being. The first ring is displacement and migration, where large populations are forced to evacuate, leading to overcrowding in secondary locations, straining neighboring jurisdictions, and creating climate refugees. The second ring is economic and livelihood harm, involving total disruption of basic services and damage to sources of livelihood, including agricultural ruin, halted industrial output, and massive financial burdens on disadvantaged populations. And the third ring is stalled sustainable development, where decades of infrastructure and developmental progress are erased, and diminished local populations mean less impetus and less tax base to rebuild broken systems. So, to summarize, think of disaster severity as a kind of equation where hazard multiplied by vulnerability divided by systemic preparedness equals the severity of the disaster. Two key principles emerge from this. First, hazards are not the same as disasters. An earthquake in an empty desert is simply a hazard, not a disaster. Disasters only occur at the catastrophic intersection of nature and fragile human systems. Second, there is a cascade effect. The initial damage, such as fallen buildings, triggers a secondary wave of impacts, including chronic disease deaths, epidemics, and economic ruin. The ultimate takeaway is that systemic preparedness must take priority over reactive response. The goal of public health and disaster management is not to stop storms, but to engineer societies and health systems capable of absorbing the kinetic shock without shattering. Hope you have understood about disaster definition, types, and health effects. If you found this video useful, please like and share with your friends and colleagues. Thank you.